The film starts in a busy government office in the city. So, there's a woman named Young-ju who is a hard-working employee. She stands out because of her unique style cause she has bangs, wears her hair in two ponytails, and always has glasses on. Some of her coworkers think she might be a bit playful because of how she looks, but everyone knows she is very serious about her job. One day, a foreigner came into the office with a problem. His electricity bill was way too high, and he was upset. Young-ju wanted to help, but she didn't understand his complaint because her English wasn't very good. She tried to ask her co-workers for help, but they all quickly disappeared, not wanting to deal with the situation since they didn't speak English either. Then, the foreigner started to get really frustrated because Young-ju was just standing there, not saying anything. He even asked if anyone in the office could speak English. Feeling stressed, Young-ju thought about leaving the situation, but when she tried to go, the foreigner stopped her. Not knowing what else to do, Young-ju gave him a nervous smile, but that only made the foreigner angrier because he thought she was making fun of him. Feeling awkward and not knowing what to do next, Young-ju glanced at the clock on the wall. Then she pointed to the clock and told the foreigner that her work hours were over. The foreigner was left speechless, not knowing how to react. After the incident at the office, the boss decided to take his team out for a meal to talk about what happened. While they were eating, the boss started complaining that none of his employees could speak a foreign language. At that moment, Young-ju was busy eating and didn't seem to care much, while her 7 co-workers just sat quietly, watching a bottle being spun like in a game. When the bottle finally pointed at Young-ju, everyone cheered, and the boss congratulated her. Young-ju tried to say something, but her mouth was full of food, so no one could understand her. The boss asked what she said, and her co-workers assumed she wanted more food. Young-ju felt frustrated inside because she didn't want to take a language course. On her way to the language course, Young-ju noticed that everyone on the bus seemed obsessed with speaking English. She even saw a student tearing up and chewing paper she had read, hoping it would somehow make her better at English. There, Young-ju started to wonder if it was so wrong to just speak Korean and be Korean. At the course, Young-ju had to fill out a form, but she didn't want to give it back when the staff asked for it. They ended up pulling at the form until it tore, causing Young-ju to fall. Then, a man named Moon-soo, who sells shoes, appeared and tried to help by saving her glasses that had flown off. But he mistakenly handed the glasses to a beautiful blonde woman named Catherine. Catherine said they weren't hers, so Young-ju quickly grabbed her glasses back and accidentally hit Catherine, causing her to fall. Moon-soo looked annoyed at Young-ju, not wanting to be blamed for the mess. The next day, Moon-soo and Young-ju ended up in the same class, sitting next to each other. Young-ju felt a bit amazed when Moon-soo helped her remove something from her hair. Moon-soo was used to getting attention from women and often acted cool about it. Then, Catherine, who introduced herself as their teacher Kathy, entered the room. She told everyone to call her Kathy and asked the students to choose nicknames. Moon-soo asked Kathy to pick a name for him, and she chose Elvis. Moon-soo liked his new name, but Young-ju insisted on using her real name, and Kathy couldn't force her to change it. Then, Kathy asked everyone in the course to introduce the person sitting next to them in English. Young-ju described Moon-soo, using the nickname Elvis. She said he was a shoe salesman and had a handsome face. But when it was Moon-soo's turn, he just described Young-ju as an ordinary woman. Later at home, Young-ju was playing cards with her parents and younger brother. Her father joked that people show their true colors when they play cards. Young-ju started feeling annoyed when her family called her ordinary and said she had no charm. Her mom then teased her, saying that out of 9 games, Young-ju had lost 7. Feeling upset that her family wasn't giving her any praise, Young-ju got angry and flipped over the game board. Back at the course, Moon-soo started flirting with Kathy openly, and Young-ju felt jealous because she was starting to like Moon-soo. Near the end of the class, she bravely announced that she wanted to use the nickname Gandhi, even though she knew everyone might laugh at her. She felt sad because Moon-soo didn't really seem to care about the name she chose. Young-ju's feelings for Moon-soo grew stronger after he found the shoes she had left behind in the crowded elevator. Moon-soo even helped her put on the shoes, which made her feel really special, like she was being treated like a queen. At that time, they ended up going home together, and Young-ju felt even happier because they took the same bus route. But, in her excitement, she accidentally got on the wrong bus. At the shoe shop, Moon-soo was helping a woman who wanted to buy shoes when he suddenly noticed Miss Lee at the bag counter. He quickly started flirting with her. Meanwhile, his mom, who worked as a janitor in the store, got really mad when she saw what he was doing. Later, when Moon-soo was on the phone in the restroom, his mom burst in and slapped him. She was upset because Miss Lee was married and had 2 kids, and she didn't like seeing her son acting like that. At that time, Moon-soo tried to explain that Miss Lee was the one flirting with him, but his mom wasn't having it. She complained that Moon-soo was just like his father, who was also a womanizer. Angry and frustrated, he threatened to move out if she kept accusing him of being like his dad. At the same time, Young-ju went to the same shoe store. She wanted to buy red shoes, but the shopkeeper suggested black ones because they looked better on her. A little later, in class, Young-ju was excited to show off her new shoes to Moon-soo, hoping to get his attention. But Moon-soo and the other students were too busy repeating what Kathy was saying. There, Kathy noticed that Young-ju wasn't paying attention, so she called her out. Startled, Young-ju quickly repeated the last words she heard. Soon after, Kathy continued her lesson and walked toward Moon-soo, which made him happy but annoyed Young-ju. Feeling frustrated, Young-ju playfully poked Kathy with her pin. And Kathy, caught off guard, accidentally slapped a student named Tyson who was sitting in front of Young-ju. It was only when Tyson rubbed his cheek and looked at Young-ju that Kathy realized she had made a mistake. Kathy got even more irritated when a student named Jolly complained that they hadn't been taught how to speak English, only how to spell. Shortly after, Kathy explained that knowing how to spell is important if you want to speak correctly. But she was too upset to keep teaching, so she ended the class early. Later, some students, including Moon-soo and Young-ju, went out for drinks and talked about Kathy's teaching style. During the outing, Young-ju kept trying to get Moon-soo's attention and even boldly asked for his phone number. Not long after, Moon-soo had a hard time dealing with Young-ju, who was drunk and causing a scene on the bus. While they were on the bus, she asked Moon-soo about his ideal type of girl. Moon-soo said he didn't have any special type, but he did like girls who could speak English because he wanted to confess his love in English one day. Hearing this made Young-ju determined to study English harder so she could be with Moon-soo. One night, Moon-soo was loudly practicing English from his balcony, pretending to talk to his future little sister. At first, his mom was annoyed because he was shouting like a crazy person at night. But after a while, his mom started shouting too, joining in with him. This made their neighbors angry because they were disturbing everyone's sleep. Eventually, they ran inside to hide from the angry neighbors. The next day, Kathy was upset because many students were absent from class, leaving only a few, including Moon-soo and his group. They pretended to have sore throats to get out of class. When Young-ju arrived late, it made Kathy even angrier. She warned the class that from now on, they could only speak English in her class. After expressing her frustration, Kathy left the classroom. And Moon-soo, who noticed everything, was happy to see that Kathy had accidentally left her cell phone on the table. Later, Young-ju was waiting at the bus stop, pretending to be annoyed because the bus was taking so long to arrive. When she saw Moon-soo approaching, holding Kathy's cell phone like it was something valuable, she wanted to talk to him. However, Moon-soo said they should speak in English. At that moment, Young-ju felt confused and didn't know what to say, so she kept her thoughts to herself. Interestingly, it seemed like Moon-soo understood and responded in his thoughts too. Suddenly, Moon-soo took out his phone from his pocket and looked excited because Kathy was calling him. She had left her phone in class, and Moon-soo promised to return it to her soon. There, Young-ju felt annoyed but pretended not to care when Moon-soo took a taxi to meet Kathy. Determined to follow him, Young-ju hopped on a bus. At first, the bus driver didn't want to chase after the taxi, but he finally agreed when Young-ju showed her ID as a government employee. Soon after, Moon-soo met Kathy at a bar, and they were chatting and drinking together when Young-ju arrived. At that time, Moon-soo was a bit annoyed to see Young-ju had followed him, but he was also worried because he knew she got drunk easily. At the bar, Young-ju unexpectedly ran into the foreigner who had scolded her before. He thanked her, thinking she had helped solve his electricity bill problem, though Young-ju just smiled awkwardly without saying anything. Kathy then invited Moon-soo to do a tap dance, and their performance was amazing, making Young-ju feel jealous. Shortly after, a foreigner invited Young-ju to have a drink, and she agreed. Surprisingly, Young-ju could handle her drinks well. Even after drinking, she was still in control and even brought a bucket of water to the stage, while the foreigner passed out. The guests were shocked when they saw young Ju burying her face in the water. When Moon-soo tried to pull her away, young Ju instead told him to run. Then, Kathy came over to check on her, but young Ju accidentally bumped her head against Kathy's. Although Kathy was a bit annoyed by young Ju's behavior, she was confused when young Ju offered her medicine and lots of food. Eventually, they all ate together, and young Ju admitted that she liked Moon-soo. Upon hearing that, Kathy assured her that she wasn't interested in Moon-soo because he wasn't her type. She even promised to help young Ju get closer to him. While they were chatting, the doorbell rang, and it turned out to be Tyson bringing pizza for Kathy. She was happy because Tyson's gesture cheered her up. The next day, the students were surprised to see that the chairs in the classroom had been arranged in a circle, and Kathy had paired everyone up. Young Ju was excited, but Moon-soo was annoyed because he had to be partners with her. Determined not to embarrass him, young Ju decided to study even harder. She even copied what she saw another student do on the bus by tearing up a dictionary page and eating it, thinking it would help her learn English faster. She also insisted that her parents and younger brother join her in learning English. She even threatened to move out and stop giving them money if they refused. Left with no choice, her parents started learning English too. Turns out, young Ju's behavior surprised her co-workers at the office because she was suddenly confident in speaking English, even though her grammar was still all over the place. One day, a little kid visiting the office with his mom didn't hesitate to criticize young Ju's messy English, leaving her stunned either from embarrassment or shock at how well the child spoke English. But when young Ju noticed the time, she quickly packed up her things, not caring about the work she still had to do. She was eager to get to her course and see Moon-soo. In the evening class, they were learning about how to have conversations with neighbors they hadn't seen in a long time. Moon-soo was a bit frustrated because young Ju hadn't studied enough. He sarcastically suggested that she watch international news to improve her English. At home, young Ju's parents and younger brother were surprised to see her watching international news. When her father asked if she understood what she was watching, young Ju just stared at the screen. The family eventually left the room, with her mother grumbling about having to miss her favorite soap opera. But her father defended young Ju, saying she must understand what she was watching. When Moon-soo got home, he found his mom answering the phone. She quickly called for him because she couldn't speak English. It turned out that the call was from Victoria, Moon-soo's younger sister. At that time, Victoria told him that she would be coming to visit in 2 weeks. Moon-soo felt nervous and even stumbled over his words. His mom then said she didn't want to see Victoria because she felt too embarrassed. She explained that ever since Moon-soo's dad left with another woman, she had struggled with the decision to let Victoria be adopted by another family, and now she felt guilty about it. Moon-soo was also frustrated because his mom kept bringing up the same story, and he was already tired from his English course. He told his mom that if she couldn't take care of Victoria, she shouldn't have given birth to her. This made his mom upset, and she once again blamed Moon-soo, saying he was just like his father who was a womanizer. Angry, Moon-soo stormed out of the house. He went to an internet cafe to play online games, but instead of the game, an image of young Ju popped up in his mind. Finally, he decided to call young Ju. When her phone rang, young Ju's dad answered it and found her asleep in front of the TV. He was annoyed because Moon-soo was asking for someone named Gandhi, not realizing it was young Ju's nickname. Soon after, young Ju woke up and quickly took the phone from her dad. Later, young Ju met up with Moon-soo, and they sat together on a bench, talking about their dreams. Moon-soo felt happy because he could chat with young Ju late at night. Young Ju was also happy because Moon-soo didn't see her as just a woman, which made her feel comfortable. He seemed more focused on improving his English. Even though she might have been upset that he didn't think of her romantically, young Ju actually felt pleased and walked home with a smile on her face, even though she wasn't drunk. When Moon-soo got home, he was surprised to see his mom waiting for him on the bench, looking sleepy. She felt guilty and asked if Moon-soo had eaten. However, he was still annoyed because his mom kept bringing up his habit of flirting, even with married women. He explained that some women actually approached him, including young Ju. His mom was curious about young Ju, but Moon-soo persuaded her to go inside the house. In her room, young Ju started to realize that maybe her style, which Moon-soo had called tacky, was why he didn't see her as a woman. The next day, young Ju tried to look more attractive, hoping Moon-soo would notice and compliment her. But instead, Moon-soo laughed and compared her to an alien with a small face and wide eyes. Feeling disappointed, she just pouted and signaled Kathy to start the lesson. Shortly after, Kathy announced that they were going on a picnic next week and that her friends would be joining them. Everyone was excited until Kathy mentioned that they would be visiting Young Ju's grandfather's house. Trying to keep the mood light, Young Ju joked that her grandfather had a pig that could speak English. When they arrived at Young Ju's grandparents' house, they were greeted warmly. There, Moon-soo immediately asked about the special pig, but the grandfather told him that the pig had already been cooked. At that time, Moon-soo felt tricked, and the others were also disappointed. Young Ju then tried to teach a piglet, but the piglet didn't seem interested. Soon after, Moon-soo came over to help by trying to charm the piglet, just like he did with his shoe customers. Young Ju held up a paper with the letter B, while Moon-soo held one with the letter A. They tried to get the piglet to choose the letter A, and when it did, Moon-soo cheered happily. They were so busy celebrating their success that they didn't notice the piglet had run away. In the end, Moon-soo and Young Ju finally managed to catch the piglet and tied it up so it wouldn't run away again. They walked together, with Moon-soo leading the piglet. As they walked, Moon-soo noticed that Young Ju was limping and asked why. Young Ju explained that one of her shoes came off while they were chasing the piglet. Suddenly, Young Ju cried out in pain because her leg was injured. Without thinking twice, Moon-soo offered to give her a piggyback ride. At first, Young Ju was shy, but she eventually agreed. They returned home just in time for dinner and joined the others for a joyful meal in the village, where everyone danced together. Later, as Young Ju was sitting and relaxing while watching the moon, Moon-soo appeared, holding the shoe she had lost. There, Young Ju was very grateful, and Moon-soo offered to buy her new shoes. At first, she refused, but then she jokingly asked if Moon-soo had a collection of red shoes. Moon-soo teased her by saying he would give her 10 pairs of red shoes, making Young Ju smile happily. After that, they chatted for a while, and when Young Ju felt cold, Moon-soo lent her his jacket. As they continued talking, she asked Moon-soo to say something in English, but he refused, saying he wasn't fluent yet. Just then, Tyson came outside and cleared his throat, so Moon-soo invited Young Ju to go back inside. As Young Ju returned the jacket, Moon-soo accidentally dropped his wallet. There, Young Ju picked it up and was heartbroken when she found a photo of a beautiful young woman inside. On the way home, Young Ju sat next to Kathy, who was asleep. Shortly after, Tyson handed Moon-soo his wallet and mentioned how beautiful the woman in the photo was. Moon-soo proudly explained that the woman is a lawyer in America, and he plans to meet her soon. Hearing this, Young Ju, who was secretly listening, felt very sad. After that, Young Ju's days became gloomy. At the office, she was unusually quiet, and her co-workers noticed something was wrong. At the course, Moon-soo also felt sad because Young Ju hadn't shown up for several days. At work, Young Ju's colleagues tried to ask why she seemed so down. She ignored their questions, but when her boss asked the same thing, she finally snapped. There, Young Ju declared she was going to quit the course because she had lost interest and didn't care if she couldn't speak English or was only fluent in Korean. She even threatened to protest if they kept pushing her. Upon hearing that, her boss and co-workers were left speechless and went back to their work. Meanwhile, at the shoe shop, Moon-soo noticed the red shoes that Young Ju once wanted. He decided to buy them as a gift for her. But when he saw Kathy standing in front of Young Ju's house, he quickly hid. Soon after, Kathy asked Young Ju to return to the course, but she firmly refused. Confused by Young Ju's sudden change in attitude, Kathy lightly bumped her forehead against Young Ju's in frustration, and they both groaned in pain. Kathy then left, staggering home, while Moon-soo quietly went back without seeing Young Ju. Eventually, Young Ju did come back to class, making everyone happy. Even though Moon-soo greeted her warmly, she kept her distance and mingled with the other students instead. There, Kathy suggested having a farewell party, but Moon-soo couldn't attend because his younger sister, Victoria, was coming to visit. Tyson offered to treat everyone since he now worked at a Korean restaurant. Young Ju tried to convince herself that everything was over, but on her way home, she kept seeing Moon-soo's shadow everywhere, reminding her that she couldn't forget him. Meanwhile, Moon-soo's mom was getting ready, and Moon-soo was practicing sentences in his head so he wouldn't say anything wrong. When his mom asked about the new shoes he bought, Moon-soo got annoyed and left without paying attention to her calling after him. Shortly after, Moon-soo headed to the restaurant, peeked in at the fun his friends were having, but didn't join them because he felt too guilty. Instead, he decided to replace Young Ju's old shoes with the new ones he bought. However, he panicked when he realized the new shoes were the wrong size, and he quickly ran to get the shoes back. Not long after, Young Ju was surprised when Moon-soo's mom came to the course looking for her son and recognized her as a government employee. Moon-soo's mom asked Young Ju to take her to the Amiga Hotel because she had an appointment with someone. There, Young Ju borrowed Moon-soo's shoes and took his mom to the hotel. At the hotel cafe, Victoria was waiting, and Moon-soo's mom invited Young Ju to join them. At first, Young Ju said some mean things to Victoria, which made her sad and leave. But when Young Ju saw how sad Moon-soo and his mom were because Victoria left, she felt bad. Young Ju ran after Victoria and explained the truth to her. After bringing Victoria back to her mom and older brother, Young Ju returned the shoes she had borrowed from Moon-soo. After that, Young Ju walked home barefoot, trying to act cheerful even though her heart was broken because her love for Moon-soo had ended. She playfully teased two men who were surprised to see her, then accidentally bumped into a pole, making everyone around her laugh. Even though people laughed, Young Ju didn't care and kept going. At the train station, Young Ju sat crying like a child, feeling really sad while waiting for her train. Meanwhile, Moon-soo was searching for her, carrying the red shoes that Young Ju had always wanted. He looked through every train carriage, calling out her name, not caring about the other passengers who were annoyed. Finally, Moon-soo found Young Ju sitting between an old man reading a newspaper and a woman with glasses. Without hesitating, Moon-soo knelt down, cleaned Young Ju's feet, and gently put the red shoes on her. At that time, Young Ju pretended to be asleep but quickly sat up when she saw the shoes she had always dreamed of. Moon-soo then explained that Victoria was his younger sister and that he had never seriously dated anyone before. Young Ju was surprised by his confession and refused when Moon-soo said he loved her in Korean. She remembered that Moon-soo had once said that if he was serious, he would confess his love in English. But he explained that Korean meant more to him, and that's why he expressed his love in his own language. Young Ju then asked about a kiss, but Moon-soo felt shy because there were so many people watching them. However, the crowd was eagerly waiting for that moment. Finally, Young Ju stood up and gave Moon-soo a quick kiss. At that moment, Moon-soo was a bit surprised, but then kissed her back gently. The crowd cheered, and their relationship ended happily. Sometime later, Young Ju and Moon-soo are married and sitting on a park bench, watching their baby who was playing in a stroller. Then, an old foreign couple walked by and said hello, asking about their baby. Young Ju and Moon-soo answered them easily in English, showing how much they had learned. The film ends with them happily chatting in the park. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is if you want true love, just learn English, chase a runaway piglet, and make sure your shoes fit because life's too short to walk barefoot.